Hey, hi guys. I apologize. I'm not here today. I had some family things I had to take care of, but I'm gonna make sure you get the lesson either way. So, last time we talked, we learned about the different parts, or some of the different parts of circles. And today we're gonna learn about your first calculations dealing with circles. And so we're gonna talk about circumference and area. You ready? Here we go. So, with the first thing that we're going to talk about is circumference. Circumference, if you've ever heard of perimeter, that's all circumference is, right? Perimeter for any shape is how much does it take to go around the shape. So for example, if you had a rectangular garden and you wanted to know how much fencing you need to go around that garden, that's the perimeter. Circumference is just another fancy word for perimeter of a circle. And so to calculate that, you need one thing. That one thing is either the radius or the diameter. You can use either, and I'll show you why. So the formula for circumference is going to be, actually let's write the definition. So circumference is better known as perimeter. Definitely write this down in your notes. And all that is how much around the circle. Okay, so how much around the circle. And so the way we find that is by using a specific formula. That formula is going to take our radius, which we learned yesterday is the line from the center of the circle out to the outer part of the circle. Okay, and you're going to do 2 times pi times radius. Okay, 2 times pi times radius. Now, I want to show you on your calculators. If you look at the calculator here, there is a pi button right here. So you don't even got to type in 3.14. Do 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons down, and that's the pi button. So literally you're typing the radius, whatever number it is, times 2 times pi. Okay? The other version of that you can use is d times pi. And if you recall, diameter is just 2 radius or 2 radii put together. And so when we put another radius here, we have a diameter. And so because 2 radii equal 1 diameter, you can also use the formula diameter times pi. Okay? So let's do a practice problem. If I had this circle here, look at that circle. And it had a radius of, let's say, 10 centimeters. Okay? To find the circumference, I'm going to do 2 times pi times my radius, which we now know is 10. Okay? So you're literally, what I would do is times 2 times 10, that's easy, that's 20. And 20 times pi, I'm going to punch that in my calculator here. So we got 20 times pi. And we end up getting 6.583. For this, we're just going to go ahead and round to the nearest tenth. So let's say that's going to be 6.6. Okay? Now, one thing I want you to remember with circumference, you always have to add the units because we're talking about a measurement of distance. And so if this is measured in centimeters, our answer is also going to be in centimeters. So you want to say 6.6 centimeters. Okay? Now let's say that we have a different circle, but this one has a diameter of, let's say, 12 inches. Okay? Again, because we're using diameter, we have to use this formula here. So we're going to do circumference equals the diameter, which is 12 times pi. And again, literally in your calculator, type in 12 times pi. And we get 37.7 because we're rounding to the nearest 10. So C equals 37.7, and then don't forget your units, inches, and that's circumference, okay? So if you're ever asked how to find how much fence you need around a circular garden, that's how you use it, okay? Now, the second thing we're gonna talk about is area. If you've ever learned about area for any other shapes, all that is how much does it take to cover a flat surface. And so, for example, if I had a wall and I wanted to paint that wall, how much paint I would need is the area, okay? And so with a circle, same thing. We're figuring out how much does it take to cover a circular surface. So let's say I had a circular garden and I want to know how much dirt I need to put on top of that circular garden. That would be the area, okay? So area, I'm going to write that definition down, is how much to cover a circle. Or fill a circle. We use cover or fill, either one works, okay? And so for this one, again, another simple formula.
Students, at this time, we are going to start closing the south gate. So if you are still on campus, please make your way to the south gate so that we can close that gate. If you are participating in the amazing production of grease, please make your way toward the auditorium. We want to make sure the campus is secure and that everyone is with a supervised teacher. So again, if you are not part of the show grease, please make your way at this time and exit from the south gate. That gate is going to be locked shortly. And if you are in the play, please make your way toward the auditorium with your supervised teacher as we clear the campus. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, so the formula for area, there's only one, not two, just one formula that you can use. And that formula is going to be pi times our radius squared. Now, why squared, you ask? That's because area is a 2D dimension, or a two-dimensional measurement, and so we're talking about a surface, and that's why we're going to square it, because we're doing 2D and not one like for circumference. Okay, so I am going to give you some examples. Here we go. Let's say we have this circle here, and I'm giving the radius of 8 feet. Okay. All I'm going to do is set it up. My area equals pi times my radius, which in this case, remember, radius is halfway across the circle, 8 squared. And so I'm going to do the math. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. And I times that by pi. I'm going to use my calculator again. 64 times, here's that pi button, pi equals, so we get 501.1 if we round to the nearest 10. So my area equals 501.1. And then for area, because it's a 2D measurement, we're going to do units squared. Okay, that lets us know that it's the area. So what do we do though if we're given the diameter? Because the formula we have, we can only use the radius. Well, all you're going to do is, if I have the diameter of a circle, let's say this is 10 miles. Okay. To find area, I'm going to cut that diameter in half, because all I want is a radius, and a radius is half of a diameter. So half of this would be 5 miles. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did here. So area equals pi times 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25. And times that by pi, I get my area of 25 times pi equals 78.5. And that's going to be miles squared. Okay? So that is area and circumference of a circle. Now, it does get a little more complicated. I'm going to show you it, but you know how to do it because you know triangles really well. You ready? Here we go. All right, so now I have this circle, but I don't have the radius or the diameter. What I do have is this right triangle with two sides that I can figure out a missing side. Because we know that with right triangles, if we have two sides, we can use the what? Pythagorean theorem to figure out the hypotenuse. So, pretty simple. I have A and B. I don't have C. Remember Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I'm going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. C is our diameter in this case. Okay? And so now I have 64 plus 36 equals C squared. When I add these two together, I get 100 equals C squared, and we know to undo square, we need to use square root. So I'm going to square root both sides, and I get C equals 10. So now I know that this line here, or our hypotenuse, is 10, which now we also know, because it goes through the center of the circle and all the way across, that that is my diameter. So my diameter is 10. Now you can use that to figure out your circumference and your area if you wanted to. See, it gets a little complicated, not much. Want to try another one? Okay, let's get a little more complicated. All right, so let's say now, let's make this thicker so you can see. Let's say now we know that this is 60 degrees and that this is 4. How am I going to figure out my hypotenuse, which happens to also be my diameter? It's pretty simple because, again, you know triangles. And so if I know an angle and the side, I can use, yep, you got it, trig, to figure that out. And so we're going to say that this is my what side? This is my reference angle. The side over here is my opposite. We're trying to find this side here, which is my hypotenuse. And so which trig formula uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. So we're going to do sine of 60 degrees equals my opposite over my hypotenuse. So 4 over x. All right. Again, we're going to use our calculator, punch that in. So sine of 60 is equal to 0.8660. And remember, when our number is on top, we divide. So we're going to do 4 divided by 0.8660, and we get x equals 4.6-ish. Okay? Again, I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, so that's where that came from. Now that I know what my hypotenuse is, that is also my diameter. So I can say the diameter of this circle is 4.6. And from there, I can use that to find my circumference and my area. Okay? So you are going to now grab a worksheet from the sub, work together or separately if you want, but I want you to complete that worksheet to the best of your ability. The last question's a little difficult, so if you can't do it, we'll talk about it when I get back. Please be amazing for the sub, and I will see you on Tuesday. Enjoy your Monday off. Love you guys.